Hey guys, welcome back here. In the last lecture we created rental card component, and in this lecture we'll create rental list component, and I will talk about a state, props and render function. So let's start. Go to your code editors and here to app.js file. And we can simplify this code even more. We can wrap all of this functionality here to separate component, and it will be class component same as our app component here. So let's do it. Go to rental folder and create a new file. Let's call it rental list.js, and let's import React from React like this and create a class. So class rental list and extends react.component. Now we have a React component. We need to export it if we want to use it in other files. So export class rental list. Every React component needs to have a render function. So render function here, and we will return from this function some elements, some view. So I will go to app.js file, and here I can copy all of this section here. I will cut it from here, and I will paste it inside of a rental list component. Let's indent it properly, like this. And here we are referencing rental card. So let's import here the rental card. Import rental card, and it's from the same folder, so like this, and rental card. Amazing. And we can go back to app.js. Here we don't need any more rental card, but we need the rental list, so I can rename it for a rental list like this, and it's from components rental and a rental list. All right, and now let's reference here rental list like this, rental list, and close it. Now save everything, make sure your application is compiling successfully, and let's go to browsers. Let's refresh the page, and it's working as before, but now you can see our app.js is much more cleaner, and it looks actually better. Now rental list is responsible for rendering rental cards. Alright, let's go back to the browsers. And here I will show you wireframe I prepared for you. So here we have a rental list component and a rental card component. Each class component can have a state. You can specify on a state your data, for example rentals. So it will be your rentals you're getting from a server, or you're hard coding them. It doesn't really matter. Or let's say item color of string red, and you can apply this color to your styles dynamically. So this is a class component that can have a state. Your rental list component rendering rental card component. So this means rental list is a parent of rental card, and you can send some data to your child components. When you send the data to your child component will receive this data on a props object. So you will receive this object on a child, and you can find this, let's say, color property on this props object, because you are sending a color here from your parent. Okay, so this is state and a props. State is for keeping a state on a component, and props is a data you can send to your child components. And then you have a render function. A render function is called when your component is about to initialize. And this function call will render your data on a screen. One more important note. When you change a state of your component, your render function is called again. So it will re-render. Whole component is re-rendered when you change a state of your component. So for example, you will have a button here that will call a function addRental. This addRental function will just push some data to your rentals array. This means your rental list component will be re-rendered, and all of the child components as well. But I think you will understand it better on a real example. So let's start. Go to your coding editors. And here into the rental list component, I can create a state. You usually create a state on a constructor. So let's type constructor here, like this. And here I can write this state, and this is the object, and I will specify our rentals. So rentals will be just an array of 1, 2, and 3. And that's it. Let's save it, and let's go to our browsers. Let's see application, and you can see error, syntax error, this is not allowed before super. So you need to call here super function like this. Before you are using this, you need to call super, because this will initialize your component because you are extending from this React component, and this is necessary when you want to access state or props inside of a constructor. You need to call super. Don't forget for it. Go back to the browsers, refresh, and everything works fine. Alright, so now we have a rentals of a numbers array 1, 2, 3. Let's render this card dynamically. So let's create a function here, and let's call it render rentals, like this. And this will iterate this rentals array, and each iteration will render this rental card. So I can write something like this: return this state, and I can access the state and the rentals on it. So this state rentals and a map. Here I will provide a callback function like this, and we are iterating a rentals, so rental arrow, and I want to return here JSX, and it's gonna be rental card like this. Okay, and now I can remove all of the 3 rental cards, and I can access here a function render rentals. So curly braces when you want to write the expression inside of a JSX, and this render rentals, and let's call it. Let's save everything and go back to browsers. Wait for refresh, and no change at all. But there is a change inside of our codes. Now it's much more cleaner. We are calling a function for render rentals. We are iterating our state of the rentals, and we are displaying our rental card here. So that's much better. Alright guys, I will cut this lesson here, but we need to still talk about a state, props, and render function. So when you change a state, the render function will be called again, and I will show it to you in the next lecture. So get a nice break and see you in the next lecture.